All right. Thank you, Mary Beth. It's so awesome to see all of you. I know I've chatted with perhaps all of you, so it's always great to see your faces. I love that folks are putting in the chat where they are located. I encourage you all to do that. It's really great for you to just build some community here. So I'm going to go over our the upgrades that we made to the invoicing progress reporting area within your finances tab. The reason why this was really important for us to give to you all is because there was a need to give a more detailed breakdown for all of you of what has been paid for, what has been invoiced. That is beyond just what's in your scope of work, which the previous view really kind of was focusing on what is in your scope of work and then didn't give clear insight into reimbursables, so expenses that you're invoicing for, other line items, which I'll go into, and then billable hours that you have sent out as an invoice. So this will be pretty quick, pretty straightforward, and I'd love to take one or two questions afterwards. So if you have, before we go into our breakout room, so if you have questions that come up here specifically about this, not invoicing in general, because you can join my breakout room for that. Chat, throw them into chat, and Mary Beth can monitor that, and then choose some questions before breakout room. So what I'm referencing up here is this invoicing progress. And so this here, the scoped area, is what will look really familiar to you. You can see the of down here in gray. And if I go back to my scope of work, my grand total, that is going to equal that total in that finances tab. So it's going to include the subtotal and tax. If I had a if I had a fee attached to it, whether it was a flat fee or a percentage fee, you would also see that showing up here. But in this example, I just have the actual scope of work, the items that are listed, the sales tax that's associated with it, and then the total. So the line above it is invoices that have been paid. So this is not invoices that have been sent and are currently unpaid. These are invoices that have been paid. And so you're able to track your progress to your actual grand total within your scope of work. So that should look pretty familiar to you. We really elevated that in the previous view. What is new that we've broken out for you is if you are time tracking and you are invoicing for your billable hours, that is now pulled out and has its own line item. And this won't be an of because for most folks, it's you're time tracking and then you're invoicing for what you've tracked. And so there isn't any of for these other three items. And so reimbursables would be your expenses. So when you have invoices, you're pulling those expenses in. That is going to show up in this line item. And then other, I just want to highlight this really quickly because other is something that's pulling from when you are just entering in plain text into your invoice. That is a practice that we encourage you to avoid because it's something that, let's say you have your permits, right? I did this example so that you could see this is something that's just typed in here. This we would really encourage you to put into your scope of work. So there can be some edge cases where putting in, plain text here and just doing that other when creating an invoice may make sense, but we really want you to think about putting as much as possible into your scope of work. And so that is where this line item is coming from. And then you have the totals down here. So that is the explanation of that. Before I see if there are any questions that come in, I'm going to also show you what was heavily requested by you all. We were super excited to get it out to you, which is invoicing reminders. So when you go and do a new invoice, and I'm going to add, let's say I do a bit more on my design services. And I go to send it. I can now check off if I want automatic reminders to go out with these invoices. So let's say I click send, and you can hover here and you can see what reminders were sent, when the next reminder is going out. And if you change your mind, you don't want those reminders to go out, you can just simply click that and disable the reminders. So those are the two features that we wanted to highlight for you. I'll see if there are some questions that have come into chat specifically about these items.
Yeah, we've got one from Tara and one from Andrea. Well, now another one from Andrea as well. So I'll let you lead those, Chelsea.
Okay, so let me see.
I guess the first
Yeah.
easy one Andrea asked was what designates the scheduled reminders and can those be changed?
So they cannot be changed. Happy to take feedback on, if that could be something that you all would like to see is customizable reminders. But for right now, we wanted to be able to get out for you all this ability to send reminders, but those are kind of just written in stone there.
And then the other
Good.
one, I think that's also pretty straightforward, Chelsea, would be Andrea had asked, we created scope item as a contracted design, so like a design fee, and then they're tracking all of their hours against that one line item. Would that show up here?
So great question. So if it's in the scope of work, that contracted design, let's say you estimated $20,000 for that, that is going to show up in this gray area here. So if it's in the grand total of your scope of work, it's going to show up in this scoped area. Where you really need to be very diligent is what you're invoicing for. So let's say you function in a way of your contracted design is $20,000, and internally that that equals 2,000 hours. What you and that you're planning on tracking that time as billable hours, and then you're going to be invoicing for that. You don't want to double invoice. So you want to make sure that if you have it as a line item, you're not invoicing for that line item and then separately invoicing for those billable hours, which you would go and do here. So these hours logged. So great for you to track those hours into that line item. It will show up here in performance. So if you're tracking your billable hours to that line item, but it will also, this is something that we have this on our radar. We're working through this. It will show up a little funky, full disclosure, because it will show up here as your grand total, but then it won't show up as you having invoiced for it because you're not going to want to invoice for the line item and invoice for those billable hours.
I think in essence, though, what Andrew's asking, like, yes, it's going to show up here if you've scoped it out and you're tracking
Yep.
against it. So I think that's correct that you're doing it that way. And then, yes, it would be considered scoped work at that point, and so it would be showing up here.
Correct.
We got a lot of other questions, so I'm going to try to do one. Lisa and Leroy asked if the invoice and or reminders can be tied to a schedule item. I think the quick answer there is no. That sounds like a great feature request. So Lisa and Leroy team, I would say click that link that Chelsea sent, or we'll circulate it afterwards and sort of add more, unless Chelsea, you've got something I don't know about on that
No,
one.
nope, I'd say that's the right move.
Okay, and then Monica said if we have a contractor's fee outlined in the scope of work, but the clients won't be paying us for those, should we be treating that differently? Clients like seeing their holistic spend in one place, but maybe we're using it wrong. I think that might be a question for the finance group.
Yep,
So Monica, can you copy that question and take it over to the breakout room in just a minute? Because I think we could get pretty deep on that one. And then Tawny, same for you. I think you've got, when you adjust the amount requested to 75%, can this client see the price of that? I would take that with you to the finance breakout room.
yep.
And then the
Mary
last
Beth,
one, oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I just want to, Tara was the first one that chatted in, and it is something that seems relevant to this, which is
Okay.
that not charging management fee for every item. So the question was, our firm doesn't charge a management fee for every item. In that event, it's always the case that the overall fee at the bottom of the scope of work is wrong, and it throws clients off. Is there a way to indicate which items labor would be charged a fee versus the ones that go without? Currently, no. So great question. That is, your understanding is correct. Um, which it's clear. And currently there is not the capability to do that, but we have received that feedback. And it is something that we are discussing in one of the features that we're working on right now that will be deployed this year. So thank you for tossing your hat in with that. Okay. I think that those are all the questions relevant to this demo, it seems like.
Yeah, Chelsea, while I rename the breakout rooms really quick, feel free to, if you want to talk about one more or add anything about invoicing reminders or ask any questions to anybody, I'm going to do this really quick.